I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's the author of the book Top 5 Digital Marketing Hacks for Creating Brands, no other than Miss Maliha Farouk. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Haliha. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me on the show. As you mentioned, my name is Malia Farooq. I have been a marketer for the last 16 years. I've worked with all sorts of organizations, both legacy, startup, and SMEs. My passion is marketing. I have also, as you clearly mentioned, written a book, which makes me one of the first Pakistani women authors to be featured on the subject of on Amazon. I am also Pakistan's first NSMBA certified neuromarketer. So, as you can see, marketing is some of what a passion for me. And it's lovely to be on the show with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Miss Maliha Farouk, thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world. So, what are the key principles of digital marketing when building a brand?
Well, the purpose of writing the book was to sort of narrow those down. And I think they come up to three: clarity, relevance, and consistency. So when I'm what I mean by clarity is that obviously, as all of us know, there's a lot of information out there. So you need to be focused, you need to have a lot of clarity in what you're doing in terms of digital marketing. And as you also aware that marketing and digital marketing is evolving at a very rapid scale, so you have to keep yourself relevant, you have to keep yourself evolved, and at the same time, when once you've realized what really works for you, you have to do it consistently. So I'd say these three things.
So, how can a business identify the most effective digital marketing hacks for their brand?
Well, I think exactly building up on what I said in my previous response, there is no one size fits all. So I really don't have an answer to that question right now. What we usually do in terms of the knowledge in the book and also through my agency, Thinkers Digital, what we try to do when businesses come, we try and understand what the pain point is. Because sometimes, Daniel, businesses completely not in sync with the actual pain point. They might think that probably, for example, sales are their pain point, or conversions are their pain point, but something else could also be coming into the way of that. So what we really want to do and what my advice would be for businesses is to understand, give some time to actually pinpointing what that pain point is, and then through trial and test understand the kind of digital marketing hack that would work for them. For some businesses, it is content creation. For other businesses, it is customer service. For a small startup, it can be budget constraints in terms of marketing. So you have to understand what kind of mediums will give you the right brand awareness and the brand visibility, but will not really break the bank. So there are a lot of nuances when you talk about digital marketing hacks for businesses, but I think that what really needs to be done prior to sort of listing down what those digital marketing hacks are is to understand what the pain point is and what kind of digital marketing information slash services could actually deal and deliver results for that pain point.
So, how does leveraging social media platforms help in creating a recognizable brand?
Well, I think, Daniel, we all are on social media. There are no two ways about it. Social media is something that customers are definitely on, whether they are looking for entertainment, whether they're searching for something, whether they are reviewing something, or whether they are trying to make a purchase. So when you look at all those things and you try and combine them into a 360-degree kind of a framework, you realize that social media is the platform that businesses need to leverage, whether, as I mentioned earlier, it is for brand awareness, whether it is for visibility, whether it is for selling, whether it is for conversions, or whether it is also for brand advocacy or brand loyalty. Now, having said that, what really makes a difference is understanding the kind of platform that you are leveraging for the kind of objective that you have already outlined. So, for instance, if you're looking for brand visibility or selling your product, LinkedIn and X will probably not be the right platform. If you are looking at, let's say, um, selling out some product information and doing it visibly, Instagram would probably be the best medium. So, trying to understand what your key objective is, underpinning that to your platform management, and then understanding what kind of content you want to churn on which platform. Then, having said that, you also have to understand that each platform that I've just mentioned to you has its own dynamics. So there is the preferred posting time, there is a preferred posting content mechanism. There is also that, so there are a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. So, to answer your question, how does leveraging a platform make it important for businesses to share visibility? I think it's very, very important these days, because you see, it is finding the customer where they are. And the customers are on social mediums, and these social mediums are linked to the platforms that I mentioned. So, being there is definitely a must. The kind of strategy that you want to have for each platform obviously differs from platform to platform, and that is something that businesses need to now sort of put a lot more thought into.
What role does influencer marketing play in establishing a brand's identity?
I think I'm going to link influencer with UGC, and I'm going to answer this question in two parts. So, earlier on, what we saw about a year and a half back was when we saw influencers, bloggers, micro bloggers take over brands. And that was supposed to be a very authentic way, because rather than putting out an advertisement which actually talks about the brand itself and consumers know that it is obviously taken out by the brand, so the authenticity is obviously questionable. What you It all boils down to what customers need to watch. Um, what customers and what viewers are now looking for is authenticity. So whether that authenticity is done through an influencer, whether it is done through a blogger or a micro blogger, is something that brands started capitalizing in. As a brand myself, we also leveraged a lot of influencers, and as I mentioned with my agency also, so there was an entire science behind influencer marketing, the kind of followers they have, the kind of ROIs, and the kind of content that they put out. Now that can also be divided into two parts. Some influencers are very, very particular about the kind of content that they make, because that is what has made them famous. So they don't really tweak around a lot with what the company wants. So the company has to tweak its way on trying to leverage that influencer. And then there are other ones where you can actually give them a script and try to make them enact a certain part of the content. Having said that, I think the trend is now shifting again, because if we are keeping authenticity as at the center of what consumers want to view and what they want to relate and resonate with, I think they've also understood the fact that these influencers sometimes are paid, and obviously they will churn out the content that the organization would like them to have. And then we've seen a rise of UGC, what we call the user generated content, and that is, I believe, is sort of leveraging. I can't say that it's completely take over influencer marketing, not at the moment, but I feel that when I show real people with real products slash service stories, testimonials, and customer reactions on my platforms, I think it gets me a better reach, and it definitely gets me a better ROAS. So in summary, I think it's sort of um, a collaboration between UGC and influencer marketing, where I see UGC taking over in the coming year, because there is a lot more authenticity compared to what influencers are usually paid for doing.
Very well said. Sorry. Very well said, Miss Maliha. So,
Like, you have to excuse me, as I
mm,
mentioned earlier, we're having
yes,
winters in Karachi and we're all down with the flu. So,
yes. We are the same here in Canada. We are having a winter. So,
but your winter is probably snowing and all. Ours
snowing,
is just
yes.
a drop in temperatures, but we're not really used to winters in Karachi, so we're
Oh,
still getting used to that.
because of the climate change. So, Miss
Absolutely.
Maliha, why is it or why is creating high quality, engaging content considered a top digital marketing hack?
Okay, so I'm going to relate this to you and I both. When you look at your feed on Instagram, and this is a question that I put out to you, how long does it take you to sort of scroll down on your feed? If you could just give me a ballpark figure in terms of seconds.
Yes, probably 1 second, not even 1 second,
So on
2 seconds.
average, so research shows that when a person is scrolling down a feed, it usually takes about 2 to 5 seconds for them to actually scroll down until they find something that
They
they are
like.
interested in, they can resonate with, and they find value with. So these are the three components that are there. So now coming back to your question on how important is creating high content, high engaging content, I think it's probably the most important aspect of getting connected to the customer, because if that so your window is between 2 and 5 seconds as per research, and if you top that up with content that is not really relating to them, content that they're not interested in, they are going to scroll over. And sometimes, and because I'm going to bring in neuromarketing here as well, the brain actually takes these cues from our own behavior. So if we are constantly scrolling, let's say a particular account, and we're not so the brain actually takes these cues subconsciously. So next time that content from that particular advertiser or that particular organization or brand comes up, my brain is actually going to tell me that I need to skip, because the past three or four content pieces that I've seen out of this brand have not really resonated with me. So this is a fear that brands should live with, because if continuously your content is being skipped, then somewhat subconsciously it sends a signal to the brain that if there is a content that is coming out, probably I'm not interested, until and unless you hook that customer with that engaging content. So I think it's very, very important from the point of view of attention, from the point of view of getting your customers to sort of resonate with your product or service, and also to then have a longer term pattern in terms of neuromarketing for your brain, where the subconscious will not signal your behavior patterns to skip again. So I think it all depends on how much the customer thinks your content material is of value to them, for them to actually stop scrolling, wait, look at it, engage with it. And now most of us know that the new algorithm for Instagram is not likes and shares. It's not likes and comments, it is shares. So shareability, so if your content is highly engaging, there are two advantages to it. First, you will hook the customer while he's scrolling down, and he will sort of engage with the content. And if it is to the level where he feels that he needs to share it, your shareability of content increases. So the same way we used to speak about traditional marketing in terms of word of mouth, this is exactly the same thing in terms of digital marketing, where shareability will not only make you reach a lot of people, it will not only give you those impressions, it will probably get you like minded target audience that you are then going to leverage for your particular objective that you've outlined, for the reason for you to actually make that content.
So, how does using data analytics to understand customer behavior contribute to branding success?
That's an excellent question, Daniel, because I still feel that data analytics has not really picked up the way it is supposed to pick up in terms of trying to leverage and in terms of trying to understand marketing campaigns. I think it is very, very important for two reasons. The first is obviously when you churn out something, you are supposed to understand how well it is faring in terms of its reach, in terms of its shareability, in terms of what the customer is actually looking for. The second part of it again brings it to the fact that when you have the right kind of data, you can leverage it in two ways. The first is if you are having an existing campaign that you're running, let's say a follower campaign, or you're probably getting running a campaign to get extra leads or something like that. Data analytics is very important for you to understand a how well your campaign is working, and secondly, to tweak that campaign if something is not going according to your plan. Now, when I say tweaking, I just don't mean trying to sort of tweak the budget of the campaign. I'm also trying to bring in an aspect of A B testing, which is A B testing for your captions, for your content, for your writing, to understand exactly what kind of content material or content piece is actually working to get you that objective. The second part, why I feel data analytics is very, very important, is to plan your future campaigns. Because sometimes what we do is something that really has worked well in the past, we sort of plug and play and copy and paste that without really looking at those figures. And this is something that we as marketers do, because we feel that, you know, excuse me, something that has worked well in the past is actually going to work well again. So, for instance, if I run a follower or a lead generation campaign, let's say 6 months back, and it's worked for me, I'm going to plug and play it after 6 or 8 months. Now, that is something that is not a very good idea, primarily because customers are evolving, our audiences are evolving, ways of consuming data and content are evolving. So, data analytics consistently, and this brings me to tying it up with the first response that I gave, that doing something consistently, but also trying to understand the kind of data numbers and the kind of data points that are coming across to you, to understand and tweak future campaigns as well, is, I think, a game changer.
So, Miss Maliha, let's do example for my podcast. According to my analytics, I got 154 countries listening to this podcast. So, from this analytics, what can I deal with it?
Okay, so what you have is what we call the first level data analytics. It is a broad umbrella figure that you've given me, that it's 154 countries that you have listeners to. Now, when you look at podcasts or when you look at YouTube videos, what we're actually, the metrics that we're actually looking for is the listener time or the viewership time, right? In
Yes.
terms of your podcast, it's going to be a listener time. Now you have to break that 154 country listenership, or if you're probably doing it on YouTube as your viewership, into separate chunks. You have to understand the kind of demographics that those countries are. First, you have to list down your, in that 154 countries, what which countries is your top listenership in. List down those five countries.
Uh,
Then drill them back into, in terms of that, what kind of demographics in those countries are your target listenership audience. Something that I have coined as a TLA, target listenership audience. Now that target listenership audience can be huge. That you have to again bifurcate in terms of age, in terms of their listening interests, and also in terms of somewhat their psychographics. For instance, if they're listening to your podcast while they're going to work, what kind of listenership window do they have? Do they have about half an hour between them commuting between their home and to their place of work? And are they actually skipping parts? So they're probably skipping your introduction of the guest, and they're probably listening to, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes
Minutes.
between the podcast. In that 10 to 15 minutes, you also have to understand the kind of subjects that are resonating with them. So, in terms of your podcast, if in those 10 to 15 minutes, if you're asking me or your guest their introduction or what they have done in terms of their life, what exactly they're doing, what kind of work that is probably not going to be of a lot of value to them. But in terms of their value ship, if they're looking for some hardcore value additions in terms of, any kind of marketing hacks, marketing campaign hacks that I could give to them, any kind of tweaking that they can do to their already existing marketing campaigns, any new marketing ideas that I'm churning that they could sort of, take advantage of. If that is the highest point of your listenership, then you realize that on a graph, the way you look at the median, and you understand that the maximum number of people are listening to 10 to 15 minutes of my podcast in a country, let's say like India, where the demographics are, let's say, 18 to 35. They are all office going people, and they usually listen to my podcast, which is converted into their time between 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. in the morning, where they're commuting. The commute is about 20 minutes, the podcast is 30 minutes. So they are skipping the intro and they are skipping the conclusion. They're only looking at the middle portion, which is the 10 to 15 minutes. And in that also, they're looking for value additions that can get them that marketing, those marketing dollars that are actually pitching for.
Very well said, Miss Malia. Very well said.
Thank you.
And that's only for my podcast. It's not included my live stream like YouTube, Facebook,
No,
and
I'm only
Twitch, which is
talking about, like I said, the LTA, which is the listenership. Now,
mhm,
when you look at viewership, which is now then obviously converted into YouTube, that's a
yes.
different medium, like I initially said. So, what works? What works when a listener is sort of consuming and relating to your content on a podcast is completely different to when they're actually looking at me and they have a visual impact in terms of YouTube. So then those matrix will definitely be different. That will obviously also have a lot of other elements, whether you are listening to the podcast on, let's say, YouTube Premium, or you're listening to your podcast on a regular YouTube channel where there are advertisements, whether you skip after an advertisement, you go to another piece of content. So there's a lot of science involved when we look at data analytics, and these are just two examples that we're talking about, YouTube and your podcast. There are multiple things that a marketer needs to take into account when they are looking and when they're churning out marketing campaigns in respect to data analytics.
So, Miss Malia, what would be your advice for those people out there who want to make their brand superior from others?
um, I think when you try too hard to make your brand superior, it sort of just never happens. So my piece of advice to brands is to take it easy, and to include a lot of research in the brand. So when I say research, I don't only mean data analytics that in terms of the entire brand story that they want to put out to their customer. What do they stand for? what kind of messaging are they wanting to send out to their consumers, what resonates with their consumers, what platforms are their consumers on, what kind of brand personality I want to churn out as a brand. And then I also bring in an element of trying and converting existing customers into your brand ambassadors and your loyal customer base. So I'll give you an example. I will not take names, but two very popular mobile phone brands just made out an advertisement where very subtly they are giving a message about their particular phone features, but at the same time they're taking each other head on in terms of what each does well and does not do well. And if you go down and you read the comments, and they're all authentic customer comments that have been posted, they're actually customers of both brands, having a kind of a dialogue where they're trying to convert the other people into their favorite phone brand. That only happens when you have brand loyalty and brand advocacy, and when you're not trying very hard to make your brand superior to the other. Because at the end of the day, what makes your brand superior is the level of customer engagement you have, whether it is in terms of engagement on your content pieces or whether it is in terms of conversions where they actually go and buy that product. So that those two elements have to be very well looked at. And I think what really works well is when you understand the kind of brand personality and brand messaging you want to turn out for your customers, and then everything needs to gel into that consistently. So that is my piece of advice to all brands, to have fun with what the kind of marketing you do, understand your customers, continuously tweak and analyze your campaigns to see what is working and what is not working, and then to continuously keep the customer at the center of anything that you do. I think if you tick all those boxes, you immediately become a superior brand in the eyes of the customers, and that's all what we're faring for.
So, Miss Maliha, what will be your short-term and long-term goals in writing as well as digital marketing?
Um, so basically, as I mentioned to earlier, Daniel, this has been a couple of years back that I wrote this book. I'm going to take out a 2.0 of this book as well, because I think marketing has evolved a lot since the time I wrote this book. That is something on the cards for me. And other than that, I actually want to now start a YouTube channel of my own where I'm going to be giving out some tips and tricks of the trade for brands, for marketers, and for consumers, because I want to start off something that is, trying to take my humble experience and my humble expertise to the larger, greater audience, for the benefit of marketing. So that is a long-term goal. The book is definitely something that I've started working on. I recently completed my neuromarketing certification as well. So trying to just educate people on the nuances of marketing. And my long-term goal is actually to convince board members that marketing is not a support function anymore. It can easily be converted into a revenue function, and that is something that I'm working on in the various projects that I have outlined for the next year to come.
So, Miss Maliha, to wrap up our discussion for tonight, what is the significance of search engine optimization in digital brand building?
I think it used to be a search engine optimization on Google, because that was primarily the search engine that we were using. And I was reading somewhere yesterday only that search engine optimization has actually converted into a term called social media optimization, where I had actually said in the beginning parts of this interview that customers are also now searching on social media. So if you want to review anything, you actually go on Instagram and you type something. You go on TikTok. The famous TikTok made me buy campaigns are something that brands are actually using for consumers to search for their products, um, sort of buy their products and then become loyal customers to that. So I think it is very, very important. The terms, Lucas, keep on changing, but the actual essence of it remains the same. You, whether you are searching on a search engine or whether you are searching on social media, the idea remains the same. You need to be on the top 5 non-sponsored links, either on Google, and the top 5 search results that you get on social media as well. So I think search engine or social media optimization, both however way you want to take it, is something that is there to stay. We are constantly working on concepts like black hat, white hat, gray hat SEO. What type of coding, what type of blogs and articles will actually get you those ratings. I don't think there is a sure shot method that I can actually tell you right now that you do these 3 steps and that's going to work. But what really does get you those rankings is consistent, high quality, engaging content, and relevant. So you can talk about 10 things in your article, but if it does not serve the purpose of what I'm searching for, I'm going to skip. So keywords are very, very important. Keyword search, keyword analysis, keyword inclusion in SEO is very, very important, and I think it's there to stay. And we're still learning how to do this better, but relevant, engaging content is something that is sure shot in getting you the rankings, whether on search engines or on social media.
Miss Maliha Farouk, thank you so much for sharing your book to the world, and we are looking forward for more empowering books like this. Can you please invite our listeners to support digital marketing?
Yeah, so the you can see on your screen the book is on Amazon. Please have a look at it. Read the abstract, see if it resonates with you. I have tried in my own personal capacity to keep it very simple for marketers and non-marketers. So the link is there as well. Secondly, I'd like to invite all of you to have a one-on-one consultation or a chat with me on my Instagram called at the rate Mal Speaks. And I'd love to see all of you there and have some meaningful, longer conversations that resonate with you and myself. See you there.
So, Miss Maliha, looking forward for more books like this.
Thank
And
you.
again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel, for inviting me. It was lovely. Take care.
Welcome, people. See you soon. So, Miss Maliha, I'm gonna share you the link of